Everyone knows the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. Horse shit. Next thing you'll be telling me is I can't judge a man by the beer he drinks. Where the hell's the fun in that? I am Evo Terra, and this is the Books and Beer Hangout.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Books and Beer Hangout. My name is Jeff Moriarty, and we have a fantastic episode today. It's going to get very artsy as we look at how to design an effective book cover. I will let our guests introduce themselves. First, John.
My name is John Ward. I'm a freelance illustrator, cover designer, and actually I don't drink, but I wasn't able to find anything in the house, but I did find a juice cup that my daughter left in the back of our car, and so
I will give you $5 if you drink that right now.
We have some fermented milk that sat in the hot sun all day.
No, you got to go through the sippy lid. Because that strains the chunks. That's that's safety.
This is already going downhill. Oh no. I owe someone $5 now. Oh. All right, well, there's a first.
Yeah. Right.
Aaron, please rescue us.
Yes.
I know the show members are dropping like flies, drinking curdled milk and everything here. I'm just drinking tap water. Luckily, there's no chunks floating in it, just some ice. But
okay, since we went right to the weird, which normally I support quite heartily, Aaron, what exactly do you do for a living?
I am a freelance graphic designer / illustrator, and for my day job, I design gift wrap.
All right, and John, did you get out what you do for? Did I miss that in the whole sippy cup thing, or?
I do freelance illustrations and ebook covers.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us and for nauseating me a little bit. So yeah, I am drinking something that I thought I was drinking something a little bit tougher than you guys, but I don't know if I'm drinking anything more hardcore than curdled sippy milk. I have from the Lost Abbey Judgment Day, which might be what your stomach is going to be going through shortly. And I specifically picked this out because of the label. We're talking cover, so I wanted to get something that was a little artistic. I wanted to get something that kind of stood out and grabbed the eye, and that was my choice.
Good call. So I also went artistic and also religious themes. This is the Hop Manna by the He Brew brand. Actually, it's by Schmaltz Brewing, but it's called He Brew, the Chosen Beer. They make an entire series of these, and I thought it was a pretty cover as well. It's a very tasty, tasty beer. So, covers and all that goes with them. So, gentlemen, let's begin this process by getting out of the weeds of the beer and into the weeds of the cover design. I'll start with what's probably a fairly easy question for you to get to, but you know we're in a world now where ebooks rule, and it's going to get worse or better, however you want to look at that kind of stuff. So, in that world, do covers still matter? John, take it first.
I believe that covers matter more for ebooks than they do for traditionally published books, because whenever you're looking at ebooks, you're viewing them on a e-tailer website, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whoever, and the thing that determines your initial impression is that small little thumbnail. And so if that thumbnail is able to capture your attention, then you're going to scroll right by that book and look for something else. So to answer your question, they're even more important now.
Great. Aaron, you want anything to add to that?
No, I agree. You got to have a good image to catch your attention. You know, you just have that small second or whatever people point over thumbnails, unless you know specifically what you're looking for. But yeah, that little piece of art, that'll do it.
Makes sense. All right, so we got to have a cover, obviously. That's been established. We need one. It's more important now ever in ebooks. And good news is you both answered the question correctly. You win 50 points on that one. But I know it's a lot different in these days of doing cover design for ebooks. Or maybe it's not any different. Are there some basic rules? I mean, what are the true elements of a good book cover that all of them should have? And anybody can go first.
Well, as far as traditional, when it's on a bookshelf, say in Barnes & Noble or whatever, it's got to be visible. That title has to be visible. I think the title is slightly more important than the cover art, because you figure as you're walking by, you're gonna see. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna amend that. I'm gonna reverse that. I'm gonna say the cover art is probably more important than the title. But they're close 1 and 2, because when you're walking quick, if you see a piece of art or a well-designed cover, that's going to catch your eye.
Right.
Then you're going to zone in on that title. So those are the two main things: the title, how clear that is on the cover, and the main art.
Okay. Okay. John, commentary on that?
A book cover is kind of like when you're dating somebody or when you're looking to date someone. It's the first thing that catches your eye. It's the pretty dress, the smile, whatever it is that you find attractive. Now, whether or not a customer or potential reader buys the book isn't determined by the cover. That's based off of the content in the book. But that reader will never pick up that book and find out what type of content you have if you don't have an attractive cover to capture their attention in the first place.
So it's like a first date. So the rule is try not to scare them off immediately.
That's right.
That's second, third date type stuff. Right.
How far does a reader go on the first reading? I mean, chapter 1, you know.
It's going to be one of those shows again. So, Aaron, you mentioned the title, and I think it's an often overlooked piece of that. I mean, obviously, great-looking art that jumps out and grabs you, that easily conveys what all 150,000 words are going to be is difficult to do. But the title is a different thing altogether. How come so many people screw it up?
They just don't think about it. I think basically the author and the publishers are more focused on, ooh, we got to get that really awesome piece of art for the cover, and that's it. I mean, even I made a mistake when I was working on my own book cover. The title just really wasn't that catchy. It really didn't stand out. I didn't pick a good font at first, and then when I got feedback, I'm like, oh yeah, stupid. It's just as important. You know, they're gonna pick some horrible font. It's not gonna stand out. You know, maybe Comic Sans or something, and it's secondary thought to them. They're more worried about the words inside than on the cover.
John, thoughts? What font do you prefer, Comic Sans or Papyrus for a title? Which one really kind of grabs the...
It's hard to beat the distinct look of Papyrus. You know, it has a nice, worn look to it.
It does.
That's Eno's personal favorite. So where do good cover ideas come from? I mean, is it something the author should sketch out and consider what he wants to convey specifically? Or is it better to have some general ideas of an impression in a genre and pass that on to someone else? What do you want to see on a good cover?
Your cover, you want to communicate the promise of the book. That's the most important thing you can do with the art or photograph that you choose for your cover. So to do that, you need to decide exactly what that promise is. Is this a funny book? Is it full of action? Does it have romance? What type of journey are you promising to take the reader on? And then whenever you're developing that cover art, whether you're doing it yourself or hiring someone else to do it, you want to make sure that that image is actually communicating what that promise is. So have some humorous elements on there if that's appropriate, or mystery, whatever the genre it is.
I like what you said about the promise of the book versus a literal, what do you see your main character looking like? Try to find a model that looks like him.
Or just crank out, everybody's favorite 3D program Poser. And
hey, Microsoft Word art, man.
I'd rather see Word art than Poser.
But that's the way that I have a few friends that are independent publishers, and one does horror. And a lot of people in the indie publishing world, they submit their work to these indie publishing houses, and that's what they do. They throw up some poser image of a vampire chick draped over a stock tombstone, and that's what you see a lot. And it's tough, for those people to afford the services of an illustrator or designer. But I guess, like John said, the promise of the book, you're promised vampires draped over tombstones at some point, maybe.
Because you can't get that anywhere else. That's
you can.
Yeah, it's a narrow market. So, what are some of your favorite book covers? Either classic or current. What are ones that really caught your eye over time? Put you on the spot.
Well, I'll tell you, a cover by an author that I know she did herself was Deborah Geary's A Modern Witch. And that's just a piece of art that she found somewhere, and she chose an appropriate font, and the best thing she did with that cover was she kept it simple. And when you look at that book cover, you know that it's of a young lady dancing in the moonlight, and you know that that's a young witch. And everything about that book cover is communicating what the story's about, and it does so clearly. And it's something she did on her own. So I mean, if you really think about it and put a little bit of work into it and do some research, a person can design their own book cover. Assuming they have halfway decent technical skills.
We'll get to that one in a second. So, Aaron, favorite book covers?
Ooh,
you can't say this one.
No, that was that one.
That would be cheating.
There was a situation that came up at a convention this last weekend, and I guess I was maybe influenced a little bit when I designed one of my posters. Was the Great Gatsby cover that came out maybe in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It's a blue cover, and it's got the eyes on it. I think there's a party or a city below that, and you really don't get a sense of what the book is about, but it's a strong enough design that it might make you inquisitive enough to actually look into the book. Like, nothing on that cover really says 1920s to me, like a pair of eyes and blue, but it's intriguing enough so you might look at it and be like, whose eyes are these? And stuff like that to get you into the book or get you to pick it up and look through it.
What about the old pulp covers? You brought up the past, but I mean, some of them fantastic. They were all sexist as hell, but they were also pretty amazing and, bold out there, attacking the 50-foot woman and, crazy stuff. It was the whole time when everything was going crazy. That was kind of a bold time, and I think we're past that. But is there kind of a common theme now that we're seeing a resurgence of? And please don't tell me the bad poser art. I get that. But, I mean, even in the books that are traditionally published or have a wider base, is there a current trend that we're seeing?
I see one. Whenever you walk through even the supermarket these days, Twilight is a series that's huge, or was huge. It's still huge because the movies are still pumping out, but there's a whole section of vampire, werewolf books that aren't Stephanie Meyer stuff, but they're all these black covers with maybe a single icon on the front or a character or something with some kind of glow around it, and then a white gothic-looking font. That is everywhere these days, and I'd love to see more of that pulp stuff come back. That noir, those dark shadows, people with flashlights exploring tombs in Egypt and that kind of stuff. Old Nancy Drew covers, Hardy Boys stuff. You don't really see that anymore. It's either really slick design, it seems, or it's got another thing these days is a lot of shots of women, either their legs or shoes or something, and you walk up and down these aisles and you see, or you just see that image. It's everywhere, and that catches my eye. The vampire covers and a lot of covers just with words on them. If it's self-help or something, there doesn't even have to be an image on it. It's just text.
Right. John, what are you seeing?
One trend that I see that I don't really understand is how that they'll have a photo of a model, and then it's just from the shoulders down. They cut off the head on the cover. And you see that a lot in romance books and paranormal romance, that sort of thing. I don't get that, but a lot of people do it. And I do agree with Aaron, the Twilight ripoff of that cover and that style, you see that a lot of places everywhere. As far as the pulp thing, I think that to some degree with the traditional publishers especially, they seem to be moving away from the chicks and chainmail and stuff, and a lot of the illustrators are starting to have female characters wearing sensible armor and that sort of thing. You still have, the old traditional, scantily clad warrior every now and then, but for the most part, I think that they're moving it out of that pulp stuff.
So that means, Jeff, you're going to have to find a different inspiration for this year's Halloween costume.
No more Frazetta-based costumes.
Yeah, like that.
I agree with this, but I will defend Frazetta. He played a significant role in my formative years.
All right, give me one more question, then I'll throw it back to Jeff for a couple more to you guys. So you guys you do cover design. You also happen to have some interest in writing and things like that. But I'm assuming that at some point in time an author can contact one or both of you or more people like that and say, I want you to work with me. So I'm an author. Actually, I'm not anymore. But I pretend I'm an author for a minute, and I'm trying to find out, who's my designer. How do I find out if I'm a fit for you? How do I vet the talent that's out there? Aaron, you go first.
Basically, if I were an author, I would definitely ask to see the artist portfolio. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it goes beyond that. Sometimes an artist can, I've got very strong design, but my illustration could be that scantily clad bikini person, or more of a noir gumshoe, or maybe if the job pays right, something like Twilight. I guess it's doing research, but it's also maybe taking a risk and saying, can you get me some sketches, some thumbnails, so I can see that maybe you have the ability to grasp my concept. These days I think you really have to kind of take a risk and give the person a chance, but not too much, because you don't want to run around in circles.
Yeah, true. John, how would you add on that?
You have to judge the artist by their portfolio. I mean, you're going to get what they've done in the past. And so just looking at what they've done for other people, or the illustration work that they've done, if it's just an artist, that sort of thing. And then, does that person reply to your emails? Are they, are they just going to leave you hanging? That sort of thing. Because follow-up is a big part of the job, communicating with the author, back and forth, and that sort of thing. And because you find a lot of artists who are great at starting a job, but they don't finish it, and you don't want to be stuck with someone like that.
So I've decided I want to engage one of you fine gentlemen to design my next book cover. What do I need to do to prepare for that conversation? What should I have ready to go? I assume sending you my whole book to read, probably not it. What do you want to see me have ready when we sit down and talk?
Definitely a strong synopsis. I mean, you don't really even have to have an idea. When you turn to an artist, it helps if you maybe have a jumping off point. But you should have a strong synopsis of what the book is about, at least be able to describe what the book is about if we're meeting in person. Give me a feel. Characters aren't important either, because it doesn't have to have the character on the cover to be a strong cover design, but it might help. So yeah, you really have to be able to convey what the book is about in a short amount of time.
John, anything to add?
Yeah, you want to be able to, the designer or artist, they're going to want to know what the emotion is that you're wanting to communicate with that cover. Going back, you want to know what are you going to promise to your readers. And so you should come to the designer or illustrator with some ideas in mind. This is what I'm thinking. But then also be open if that person that you hire comes back at you with something else. And even be open to something that's not a literal representation of something that happens in the book. Aaron talked about the cover to The Great Gatsby, and how that didn't really communicate, 1920s. but it was intriguing, and it caught his attention, made him want to find out, why is this picture on the book? Those type of covers can be even more effective than, some literal scene from your book. It communicates the spirit of the book.
It's interesting. I found a list of what one site considered the 20 greatest book covers of all time, and I put that in the chat window here, and we'll put it in the show notes. And Gatsby's on there. And you see a lot of these are very simple, they're clean, they convey, as you said, their promise, and that's it. They're not overly detailed.
Was Podcasting for Dummies on that list, Mike?
That was probably 21. That's probably 21, so I'm sure just right below the line. With all the dummies books tied for 21.
Mine was the most unique dummy book. All right.
Oh, you most unique to me. Okay,
yes,
you're going to my personal grammar hell. Okay, so we're engaging here. I'm a new author. I want to get a book cover done. We're talking. What can I expect to pay? What do you two wonderful gentlemen charge for your talents to design a book cover, or a range, or how is that negotiated?
I always have the most trouble with this. Some say I might undercharge for my services. I know there's a lot of
requests now.
Yeah, there's a lot of guides out there, like Guildarts and stuff that you're supposed to go by and say your time is worth X amount. And I work fast, so I would work myself out of a job if I went by hourly rates. I guess it's one of the first questions I ask, and I feel it's the most diplomatic, is what is your budget? I find I've scared some people off in the past if I throw a number out there. And they're like, oh, we can't possibly do that. And I'll try lowering it, but the damage has already been done. They're like, oh, I was thinking $5. You said $150. So I always ask what the budget is first. And then I kind of, I'm not going to give somebody less of a design if they can't afford, I'm not going to give them just type on a cover. But, it definitely gears me up to see, not even how serious they are, but is this client going to be kind of worth it? Which makes it sound kind of jerky, but...
Well, and would you say, though, not to pin you down too much, and I know it does vary, of course, but if someone is looking for a book cover, do you tend to think that's the 100, 500,000, 5,000, 10,000, you're $1 million a cover? What's sort of the...
I would shoot for, it depends on the publication. If it's a big publication, I might charge like $500 for a cover.
Okay.
If it's going to be a small paperback that's going to be just a friend's publishing, I just quoted somebody $100, for a small paperback. So yeah, I kind of, anywhere between those two ranges, I feel that would be the. But you didn't want much on the cover, so I was able to kind of pare that down a little bit.
Okay, John.
Well, I pretty much focus exclusively on self-published ebook covers. I would love for New York to come calling, but so far they haven't. So I haven't had the issue of having to turn down the big jobs. But at any rate, so I charge $99 because I want to stay affordable for the guys that are doing it, on a shoestring budget. And, I haven't been doing it for 100 years, so starting out, trying to establish myself. Once I become as great of a designer as Aaron is, then I might start charging $500.
Yeah, good call. Good call. All right, guys, so we're out of time here, so let me give the last question out there, so keep this nice and brief. Tell me the one thing that authors, one tip, I guess, for non-artists who are deciding that they're going to do their own cover. What's the one?
Don't use Comic Sans. Actually, go out and find a font online, even if you have to pay a little money for it, or there's tons of free ones out there. Try not to use anything that comes stock with a program or with your computer. Go out there and find something unique, and it has to be legible, but find something that's going to really put a call out on your book that'll be catchy. You can go with something traditional, but since it's your own thing, maybe put a little bit more of yourself into it and find something that's kind of cool. And get feedback on it.
Good idea. Good idea. John?
have a focal point with your image on the book. You know, you see a lot of guys who are doing photo manipulation, and they've got 5 different pictures in there, and they're all competing with each other. Have one of them stand out. This is where you want the people's eyes to go when they look at your book. You can do that by making it bigger, making it brighter, or whatever, but make that focal point stand out from the rest of the book in some way.
Very cool. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up here on the Books and Beer Hangout. Thanks very much to you, John, and thanks very much to you, Aaron, for joining us today.
Pleasure being here.
And thanks to all of you out there for watching the show, however you may have found it. We recorded this show as the Books of Beer Hangout here on YouTube live, as well as Google Hangouts. Happens 6 p.m. on Thursdays. Can't miss it. Links to all of our prior episodes, as well as information about our guests and their work, can be found at booksandbeer.com. For more insight and education to help authors survive and thrive in a digital world, please visit epublishunum.com. For Jeff Moriarty, I'm Evo Terra. Thanks for watching.